Welcome to Caregiver Counsel, Elder Law Insights with Tieesha Taylor.
Welcome back to Caregiver Counsel, Elder Law Insights. I'm Tieesha Taylor, founder and CEO of the elderly care law firm in South Florida, where we provide compassionate generational legal services to families navigating Medicaid, guardianships, probate, and long-term care. I'm really excited today because we have joining us is William G. Perez, a retired Marine Corps colonel, attorney, social worker, and a veteran advocate. As you all may know, that I'm a huge advocate of veterans and veterans benefits, but Colonel Perez is also an advocate, and we're happy to have him join us today. He has spent the past several years working with veterans and their families to help them better understand available resources and benefits. So today we'll be discussing VA benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, and the programs and initiatives available to support veterans throughout our community. Colonel Perez, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
It's great to be here, Tieesha. Thank you for having me.
Yes, my pleasure. So just to get started, as everyone may know that we do represent veterans, but many veterans and their families are aware of some of the VA benefits, but may not fully understand what resources are available. So can you just give us an overview of some of the most common benefits veterans should know about?
Sure. Well, the first thing I think I want to do is give a key takeaway to any veterans that may be listening. And that's basically they should find any local veteran organization like the American Legion or VFW or Disabled American Veterans and join those groups, especially the American Legion is probably one of the easier ones to join. Because what we're going to talk about today are things that are discussed every month at these, the veterans organizations. And not only that, but the veteran organizations has veteran service officers and have contacts like your firm, where you guys came out to talk to American Legion Post 144, and you provided us a really good informative class. So it's one of those things where the one thing I want the veteran to take away from this is you don't have to navigate this alone. You have your brothers and sisters in arms. We're all there, the American Legion Post. Mine is Post 144, and we're there to assist you to get through this process and to get the resources and the help you need. Not talking about VA benefits. Basically, it's dependent upon your period of service, your characterization of service. Usually you need a honorable type discharge, general under honorable or honorable discharge. There are processes to upgrade and other than honorable. If you have a dishonorable discharge, you're not going to qualify for any VA benefits unless it gets upgraded. As far as VA benefits go, probably the one that is most used by veterans is the disability benefit. And basically what happens is during your period of service, if you're injured in service or exposed to chemicals in service, a lot of folks don't realize that if you were motor transport, if you were aviation repair, if you were any of these kind of activities that worked on these vehicles, aircrafts, etc., you have been exposed to toxic substances. And if you had that MOS, military occupational specialty, I think the Air Force called it AOS, but everybody has a term for military occupational specialty. If you had those specialties, then there's almost a presumption that you have had something connected to service based upon the toxic exposure. You just have to present basically ED 214 that tells them what your job was and where you were stationed and what you did. And then after that, once you have that presumption, because you've been exposed to toxic materials and stuff, then it's all a matter of finding what you're currently suffering from. If you were lucky enough that something happened during service and it's in your military record and in your health record, military health record, then you got all the facts and data you need right there. Most of the time, 99.99999% of the time. It's something that often comes later. Toxic exposure does not present itself as cancers or tumors or anything until sometimes decades later. And so then you have to get what they call a nexus letter. A nexus letter is basically connecting your condition to that exposure that occurred many years ago. And it's done by a doctor. And I know your firm has several doctors that work with you. And there's other doctors around as well that do nexus letters to assist veterans. So once you get that benefit, once you apply for that benefit, and once it's granted, it's a percentage level. Most of these veterans know this. They give you a percentage of disability. A lot of times it can be anywhere from 30 to 50%. If you get 100%, then what they do after 50%, I believe it. Wrong on this. After 60%, or it could be less, but you get a monthly compensation, and that's tax-free. If you are at 100%, then of course the amounts go up. It's based upon your percentage of disability. If you're at 100% and you become 100% permanent total, then you're getting, and if you're married, you're getting somewhere around $4,800 a month. Now, the other thing, if you're 100% permanent total in the state of Florida, then you're eligible for a disabled veterans plate. If you get a disabled veterans plate, obviously you can park in disabled parking, but also you are not charged any parking at any municipal parking space. So at the airport, they don't charge you any parking. Another thing that's actually something that the American Legion Post 144, we were worked on with Representative Tom Perez, state representative. He pushed, and he has actually gone through the state house and the state senate. It's probably sitting on someone's desk waiting to be signed, where if you are a Purple Heart recipient, you don't even have to pay any tolls. So we're waiting for that to get passed. So that's only limited to people with Purple Hearts. There's not that many people have Purple Hearts. But so that's some of the stuff that, like I said, the American Legion Post here does, and we advocate, we promote, we talk to representatives and stuff like that. Now, if you're back at the 100% disabled, permanent total disabled, and there's a lot of benefits that also go to your children. If you have school-age, college level, university level students, or kids going to a trade school, there is a dependent education assistance program that's given to those who are 100% permanent total disabled. And those are basically, it's been a while since I looked at it. When I looked at it last, probably more now, because this is at least 10 years ago, it was like $1,200 a month tax-free given per child. All right. And that's to help with education, offset education, et cetera. That's tremendous if you're 100% permanent in total. Right? Another big benefit in the state of Florida, if you're 100% permanent total, is you are exempt from property taxes. You don't pay ad-valorem property taxes, which, as we know, with property values going crazy, that is really, depending on where you live, it's a minimum of $10,000 of savings per year, up to, whatever kind of house you have, whatever neighborhood. So, that's another huge benefit. So all these benefits and all these processes and gaining these benefits really start with that veteran connecting with that veteran service organization like the American Legion or the VFW or the DAV.
Great, thank you. That was very informative. That's going to be very helpful for our listeners, because a lot of our listeners who are veterans or even spouses of veterans or family members of veterans are not aware of those benefits. So thank you. What do you find are some of the most common misconceptions veterans have about qualifying for benefits or assistance programs?
I think a lot of them feel like they don't deserve it, and it's basically because they feel like, well, I wasn't shot in combat, or I wasn't severely injured in combat, or severely injured in training. So you have this kind of humility and humbleness that a lot of veterans have. But, the truth of the matter is, every single piece of equipment that you work on in the military has been designed to be lethal. So every system, every weapon system has been designed to be lethal to human beings. And also they have been designed, not for any ergonomic, purpose like, oh, it's a super comfortable ride. No, they're designed to withstand a blast. So they're heavy. It's heavy metal, thick metal. So you're working around these things. You bump into something, it's going to leave a mark. You work on equipment. It's not like you're working on. I'm working on my pickup truck out here. It's no. A Humvee. You run into that, it's going to leave a mark. You jump off of a 5-ton, or deuce and a half, which is those large trucks. It's a 1.5 to 2 foot drop, and you're with all your, what do we call the battle rattle. You're wearing your sappy plates, your body armor, your backpack, your weapons, your ammo. So you're basically jumping down, repeatedly over and over and over again from the back of a truck that's 2 feet high with 60 pounds of gear on it. That's going to do some damage over time. So a lot of times it's, trying to explain to them or, the veteran, well, there's a reason why your knees hurt. Well, there's a reason why your hips hurt. Well, there's a reason why, you got this cancer. There's a reason why, because their sense is, they look at those veterans who got hurt in combat, who are very deserving, obviously, of disability, and they think themselves undeserving. So trying to get them to overcome that mindset and say, listen, you really need to approach this from a realistic point of view. You are obviously suffering over time. This thing does accumulate. Let's try to make sure you get help because, folks who serve their country, deserve all the support that we can give them. And then someone else says that's probably the biggest challenge. A lot of folks think it's funny because a lot of folks think that veterans are like running like crazy trying to get benefits. That's actually the opposite. You got to talk them into it. I had a friend of mine who was in the Army National Guard. And he died of brain cancer, and he didn't get any VA benefits because by the time he talked to me, he was already at stage 4, and I had met him, and there was not much I could do for him. And part of it was he had cognitive decline so much that it was kind of hard to, get it. We got his D214, but you need some more information from the service member to put together the package. So, my best advice for folks is don't wait. To get with a veterans organization, join. If you don't have, at least for the American Legion Post, if you don't have the money to join, the $40 a year to join, we'll cover it for you. American Legion Post 144. So that really would be the best advice.
Thank you. That's wonderful advice. Yeah, I know that'll definitely be helpful, and I agree. Just go, join these organizations. They are here, and then you can connect with others who are going through what you have gone through, or that could be a resource for you and someone you can relate to. So thank you for that. Now we know initially in my opening, I was saying how active you were involved, how you were advocate, but I know you've been actively involved in supporting veterans in your local community. Can you just tell us some of the initiatives and programs that are taking place where you are in Miami-Dade County?
Well, like I said earlier, we have worked with Representative Tom Provisio and Senator Avila. We're both actually, one's in the National Guard or Army Reserve, and the other one's in the State Guard. So to get the Purple Heart thing passed, so that way folks who have Purple Hearts don't have to pay any tolls in Florida. We just finished, Dade County just finished putting inside the Dade County City Hall, basically, this beautiful monument to those veterans who have died in service since World War I, which was Dade County, which is 1,091 names. And so we did a dedication ceremony there as well. Closer to home in Hialeah, Miami Lakes, I'm the chair of the Veterans Committee for Miami Lakes and the chair of the Veterans Committee for Hialeah. And we put on Memorial Day events. We put on a Veterans Parade for in Miami Lakes. We put on Veterans Day events in Hialeah. We do this large fundraiser. It's a casino domino night that we do in Hialeah. And you guys are going to be one of the sponsors. Thank you very much. And what it does is it raises money for disabled veterans, organizations that are local that support disabled veterans. And that's really the emphasis that I try to work on. And I'm also a member of the Military Advisory Board for Dade County. I try to focus on, where the boots meet the ground. If you give money to a national organization, and there's great national organizations, like Wounded Warrior, Tunnels of Towers, and stuff like that. It's going to go to a national headquarters that has a pretty big administrative cost. CEO of Wounded Warrior, this is on, you can Google this, makes over $400,000 a year. I can tell you that what we do is when we fundraise, all the money stays local. It goes to the American Legion posts. It goes to the Knight Columbus folks who serve the VA and with 4 events per year, doing bingo, doing barbecue with those who are permanent residents of the VA, those folks who are too handicapped to even leave. And so it stays local, which means that, we don't need lots of money to make things happen. One of the things we have in American Legion Post is we have this relief funds for our members. There's a real difference between veterans. I'll tell you what it is. For myself, I did 32 years of active duty. I retired as a 4-foot colonel. I have an active duty reserve. I have an active duty pension, and now also have a VA and also an investment. I'm like one of the lucky 5% of the veterans who have been able to do well. There's at least in our post 50%, maybe 30%, at least 30, maybe 25 to 30% of those veterans that are really struggling. Like if their car breaks down, they can't get to work. If they get a flat tire, they can't get to work. If, sometimes they can't make a rent payment. And so we set up a relief fund that if they can show us what's going on, bring the receipt, or the estimate, or the whatever the issue is, we provide them the money, and then they pay it back over time, no interest. And they want to pay it back, because they're veterans. They have pride. They don't want a handout, but normally they cannot get the assistance. So we have folks who, like I will say, 25% of the veterans at that post, and probably the same is true for over every post, they're struggling. And I mean, we connect them with free dental care because a lot of them don't have that. And so, a lot of the stuff that I do is one of the reasons that when I finished active duty, I decided to get a social work degree is so I can help veterans out, and also some personal issues dealing with my son. But what I found was I'm in doing more social work type work now with the veterans at the post, et cetera, just connecting them with resources and making sure they understand what's available.
Great. Thank you for that. That's wonderful. Well, that's great information. And just to wrap up, if our listeners want to follow up, support your projects, or learn more, what's the best place for them to find you and some of your initiatives? And how can the community support veterans?
They can go to our website, which is AmericanLegion144.org.
Great.
And that's our website. And that way they can see what we're doing at our post. They can support us.
Mhm.
And if they're veterans, they can join us. You can, our post is usually highly at Miami Lakes, but you can come from any location to join our post.
Great. Thank
So
you.
that's the best thing. But
Wonderful.
I'd like to thank you, Tieesha, for the time and meeting
Yes,
with
my
me,
pleasure.
inviting me on, and
Yes.
also like to thank your organization with the great work they do.
Thank you.
And thank you for you guys, saying that you will be help sponsor
Yes.
our fundraiser. I really do appreciate
Thank
it.
you. It's our pleasure. Yeah, like I said, veterans, it's our heartstring. So we love supporting veterans organizations, and being out there in the community. And I want to thank you for joining us and providing this valuable information that a lot of veterans don't know. So I know our listeners will take a lot from this. Um, so just to wrap up, I want to thank everyone for listening to Caregiver Counsel, Elder Law Insights. And if you're facing questions about long-term care, Medicaid, guardianship, probate, or even veterans benefits, or protecting an aging loved one, you can connect with my team at elderlycarelawfirm.com or 305-836-4697. And if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need it. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.